Hello everybody and welcome to episode 1.8 of You're Off the Case, the Ottawa Hockey Podcast. I'm Clayton Johns alongside Jamie Shinkuski as we try to cover the past week of hockey here in the nation's capital. And Jamie, as always, we start with the Ottawa Senators.
He's big. He's bald. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Auld got the start Saturday, February 25th. Versus Boston in a 5-3 loss because Craig Anderson lacerated his hand. In the loss, Erik Karlsson notched a goal and 2 assists, Daniel Alfredsson had 2 goals, and Jason Spezza had 3 assists. They followed that up Sunday, February 26th, versus the Islanders at home again, where they got back into the win column with a 5-2 victory. Robin Lehner got the start, making 27 saves. Karlsson added 2 more assists. Kyle Turris and Chris Neal led the way with 1 goal and 1 assist apiece. And Tuesday, February 28th, they were in Boston looking for revenge, and they got it in a 1-0 shutout victory with Robin Lehner making 32 saves to collect his first career NHL shutout. Karlsson had the only goal for the Sens, and Matt Gilroy, making his Sens debut, had 13 minutes and 47 seconds of ice time. Karlsson set a new franchise record for single-season points by a defenseman this week. He currently has 65 points, and the record before was 63. Now, the trade deadline just passed, and the Senators did make some moves on trade deadline day. They traded defenseman Brian Lee for Matt Gilroy from the Tampa Bay Lightning, and just before the deadline, they got Ben Bishop from St. Louis for a 2013 second-round pick. This week, the Sens will be at home to Chicago and go down to Florida to face the Panthers and the Lightning. They currently sit 5th place in the Eastern Conference with 76 points, but have played more games than all the teams surrounding them. Now, moving on to the rest of the NHL, as I mentioned, it was the trade deadline this past week, but it was not the most busy trade deadline we have seen. But there were a few big names that got moved, including Andrei Kostitsyn going from Montreal to Nashville, and probably the biggest trade of the day was Zach Kassian and Marc-Andre Gregnani going from Buffalo to Vancouver in exchange for Cody Hodgson and Alexander Sulzer. Now, most of the big names got moved before the deadline, including Jeff Carter going to LA in exchange for Jack Johnson, Antoine Vermette going to Phoenix, and Wojtek Wolski going to Florida. But another story right now in the NHL is the Toronto Maple Leafs, who have only won once in their past 10 contests. They have been a topic on Canada's favorite game show, The Quiz on TSN, and people are wondering, and Clayton, maybe you have your opinion on what needs to change most about the Leafs. Is it the coaching, the defense, the goaltending? Do they need more veterans? What do you think they need to change?
Clearly this whole team has issues. I mean, clearly they're not as good as maybe their record indicated at the start of the year. They're not a bad hockey team by any stretch, but I don't know that they're clearly not in that top echelon of teams. I'm a little bit biased, but I'm going to have to say they need a new coach. How else do you explain a team that can't put it together down the stretch year after year in a row with the same coach? Coach can't motivate them. They're not playing to win. They're not playing with enough emotion down the stretch in order to get themselves into that playoff spot. So I'm going to say they need to replace Ron Wilson.
Yes, and we're heading down the stretch now. The trade deadline has passed, and the races for positioning are heating up. It looks like the Rangers could win the East, but everything's up for grabs. The battle for top spots, the battle for the final spots. It'll be very exciting as we go towards the playoffs.
Certainly will be an exciting race in the National Hockey League, and just the same in the Ontario Hockey League as our own Ottawa 67s battle with the Niagara Ice Dogs for the top spot in the Eastern Conference. The 67s had a pair of games over the past week, starting Friday, February the 24th at home as they took on the Barrie Colts, where they dropped this game in a shootout by a score of 5-4. Shane Prince had a pair of goals for the 67s, but they were behind 4-2 early in the game to Barrie, but they came back in order to send the game to a shootout, but they couldn't get it done as Zach Hall scored the shootout winner for the Colts in the 7th round of the shootout. At home once again on Sunday afternoon to take on the former first-place team in the country, the London Knights. The St. John Sea Dogs have recently taken over that top spot. The Knights opened up a 4-0 lead before the 67s were able to respond with a pair of goals, including a beautiful goal by Shane Prince where he split the D and beat goaltender Michael Hauser. And despite the score, the 67s were right with the Knights and outplayed them for much of the second period, outshooting them 20-9, but just couldn't solve Michael Hauser and couldn't get the bounces they needed in order to get a couple more goals and get them into the win column in this one. And Jamie, over the past couple of weeks, we've seen the 67s kind of struggle a little bit. They haven't been able to do what they did at the beginning of the year. They've kind of had to deal with the information that John McFarland is out for the rest of the season after they picked him up at the deadline. What does this team's mindset need to be heading into the playoffs?
There is one place their mindset has to be, and that is on winning. They need to get the points going in. They are still in contention for first in the conference, which would give them home ice advantage until the finals and would give them momentum riding high into the playoffs, and that momentum is very, very crucial.
The 67s have 4 games this weekend, all of them on the road, as they hit the road for a Western swing starting Friday night in Sarnia, where they will take on the Sting. Saturday they travel to London to take on the Knights once again, and Sunday they will be in Guelph to take on the Storm before a divisional matchup on Wednesday evening in Kingston to take on the Frontenacs. Move along to OUA hockey playoffs. The Ottawa GGs were at home against the McGill Redmen in Game 2 of their OUA Eastern Conference semifinal on Friday, February the 24th. McGill took this game 5-3 to eliminate the GGs, and the Redmen move on to the OUA East final. The other Ottawa University team, the Carleton Ravens, played 2 games this weekend. Game 2 of their 3-game series against the UQTR Patriots was Saturday, February 25th at Carleton. Tim Billingsley scored 2 goals in the first period that led to the victory for Carleton as they defeated UQTR 5-1. Both teams back at it Sunday night at UQTR. Carleton was down 1-0 until they scored a pair in the third period, but then UQTR tied the game with under 4 minutes to go to send the game to overtime. And UQTR's Pierre-Alexandre Joncas ended the Ravens' season 6-18 into the second overtime frame. The Ravens end their season the same way they defeated the Toronto Varsity Blues. UQTR moves on to face the McGill Redmen in the OUA Eastern Final. Of note, the OUA Western Final is between the number 5 seed Windsor Lancers and the first seed Western Mustangs. Moving along to the CCHL and the Ottawa Junior Senators, who had a trio of games over the past week. Friday, February the 24th, they were in Gloucester. They defeated the Rangers 10-3. Devin Rice with 5 goals. Drew Anderson with 5 assists in the win for Ottawa. Back in action Saturday, February 25th at home against the Canada Stallions. They dropped this game 4-1. Josh Pitt had the only goal for the Junior Sens. Wednesday, February 29th, traveling down the road to take on the first place Nepean Raiders, and the Junior Sens come out with a big win, 5-2. Cullen Van Strien had the eventual game winner for the Junior Sens. This week for the Junior Sens, home-and-home series with the Brockville Braves, starting Friday night in Brockville, Saturday night at home against the Braves, and then Wednesday, March the 7th, the final game of the regular season for the Junior Sens against the Pembroke Lumber Kings. The Junior Sens have clinched the 7th playoff spot. They cannot move any higher. They cannot drop any lower. They will play either the Cornwall Colts, the Brockville Braves, or the Carleton Place Canadians. The game of the week this past week in the CCHL was once again the Carleton Place Canadians taking on the Pembroke Lumber Kings. Pembroke comes up with the victory 2-1. They got a pair of goals from Liam Byard in the second period to take them onto the win. Moving along to our regular segments, we start this week with the Name of the Week.
Yes, and for the first time we're looking to the Continental Hockey League in Russia, where this former NHLer who played 6 NHL seasons, amassing 120 points in 393 games, is now playing for Atlant Moscow Oblast of the KHL. Our Name of the Week this week, hailing from Piashtani, Slovakia, is none other than Branko Radivojevic.
Branko Radivojevic, one of those memorable names, known mostly for his time with the Philadelphia Flyers. Moving along to one of our new segments, Jamie, and you're going to explain exactly what that is.
Yes, this new segment entitled What Happened There, where we look at draft days in the NHL throughout the years, and we say, what happened there? How did that guy, picked first overall, such as Alexander Daigle, become such a bust? Or how did a 171st overall player blossom into a Pavel Datsyuk? Well, for our first segment, we look to the 2002 draft, where in the 8th round, Buffalo selected 241st overall defenseman Dennis Wideman, who is now playing with Washington, who is averaging just under 2 points a game with 244 points in 516 games played. He blossomed from 241st into a 2012 NHL All-Star.
Dennis Wideman was a great player when he played in the Ontario Hockey League, so it kind of leaves me scratching my head as to why he was picked that late, but great to see Dennis Wideman finding some success in the National Hockey League. Moving along to our final segment, the You're Off the Case moment of the week. And this week it goes to Jonas Gustafsson, the goaltender for the Toronto Maple Leafs, as they lost 4-3 in overtime to the New Jersey Devils on February the 21st. That was the result of a Mark Frein shot that was going wide of the net in overtime, but Gustafsson deflected it into his own net with his glove, costing the Leafs the win. And Jamie, as we mentioned earlier, the Leafs just not finding things to go their way lately. What's going on with the Leafs right now?
Sometimes you find yourself in a losing streak where seemingly nothing can go right, including knocking the puck into your own net during overtime, and Jonas Gustafsson, just like Sergei Bobrovsky, you're off the case. Anyway, folks, that's all the time we have for this week. We'll be coming back to you approximately same time from the same place in 1 week from now.
Thank you for tuning in, everybody, to episode 1.8 of You're Off the Case, the Ottawa Hockey Podcast. For Jamie Shinkuski, I'm Clayton Johns. Thank you for tuning in on this day, March the 2nd, 2012.
It's been so long, I've been out of my body with you.